before we get started cutting this bucket apart, make sure you have your safety glasses on. Even if you're welding, make sure they're on your face and they're underneath your welding hood, and put earplugs in. I was air arcing and I had a hot one come down and landed inside of my ear and actually went in and burned a hole in my eardrum. Oh man, and it was like 6 months to get this thing to heal. And if it hadn't healed, they would have had to go in and reconstruct a new eardrum for me so I could hear. So always make sure you put your earplugs in if you're grinding, air arcing, welding, or whatever you're doing. And always wear your safety glasses, even if it's underneath your welding helmet. Make sure you keep your safety glasses on. A few little things that I was going to talk to you about was you're going to see I took a cutoff wheel and I started cutting a lot of the floor out of this bucket. I always use a Motabo. These Slice Plus, man, they work good. They last a good long time. This DeWalt, it really rocks when it comes to making a nice straight cut. A lot of times I'll air arc and take the old welds off with an air arc. Be very careful when you're air arcing, because you will see how far it blows sparks, and if it hits a piece of glass or something, it's going to ruin the glass. Another little thing that I like to do when I'm welding, you know, the older I get, the harder it gets to see out of my lens. I always keep a new lens and I keep new plastic on both sides, but it's still hard to see a lot of times. If you just take your flashlight and when you get ready to strike an arc, put your flashlight down there on your work, and when you strike an arc, you'll find it with that flashlight. It makes such a difference when you're welding something. It's unbelievable what that little bit of light down there will do for you. I know everybody out there has been welding and all of a sudden they got to lift their helmet up to see where they're at because they got lost someplace. Well, you won't get lost with a flashlight. Turn that light on, shine it down on there, strike your arc, and away you go. It helps 1000%. When you're getting ready to weld something, always make sure you clean it good. You got all the rust cleaned off, the paint cleaned off. And when you wire brush it, only wire brush it in one direction. When you sit there and you wire brush something and you go back and forth on it like this, the only thing you're doing is you're contaminating where you're going to weld. When you brush it in one direction, you actually get that stuff out of there. I like to brush it in one direction, then take an air hose and blow it clean, and then get ready to start welding. It makes such a difference. If it's not clean, it's not going to weld. It's just, the cleaner it is, the better it is. You'll see me using this clamp in the video, and I'll tell you, they are a godsend, but you got to know how to use them. So when you put them down, only weld on one side. Don't weld on both sides, because you got to take that thing and take it off and move it to another location as you're going. If you weld on both sides, now you're going to have to take a grinder and grind that thing off. If you just weld on one side, you can take and grab a hold of it and bend it and break the weld and go on to the next one. Weld it down on one side, go to the next one. It makes such a difference. If you ever find one with a brass screw, grab it, because I'll tell you, the weld splatter won't stick to the brass screw, and it just makes a world of difference when you're trying to get something done. So the other thing is on your welding helmet, check your lens and make sure it's clean. And if you have to, replace it and put new plastic on both sides of it to keep it nice. You can always throw the plastic away. The plastic is cheap. The lens costs you some money. I do not use electronic lens. I've been bit too many times with them. I just don't like them. I always use a dark lens. Dark lens and a flashlight. My preferred way to do it. So we'll get started on this bucket, and a few little things to help you along the way here. The metal that we're going to put in the bucket is AR400. That's abrasion resistant with a hardness of around 400. We're putting it in 1/4 of an inch thick. That bucket is going to last for 25 years like that. You will never wear that out. So we took our cut off. We cut it at 24 inches, which leaves us a ½ an inch hanging over here on the back side. We've cut all the easy stuff, and now we're going to unlaminate, and we're going to cut all these welds off of here and take this part apart, and then we're going to have to finish cutting across the inside and the front once we get those all cut loose. But we've cut all the easy stuff with the cutoff wheel. Now we're going to get the air arc out. One thing about an air arc, always make sure when you hook your air and your power up that you always cover it with this boot and get that boot all the way over the top of that, so if it touches something, you know, those leads never go dead. So if it touches something, it's going to ruin that coupling, which I've bought a lot of them couplings in my lifetime. Make sure you keep it covered up real good. What we're going to use is on this is we're going to use 3/8 air arc rods. That welder right there is 600 amps. It does a fine job with them. I'll crank her up about 500. Pop that stuff out of there. If you don't have a big machine, you can use a small machine, use a smaller carbon rod. But literally everything that you touch, it's going to take it out of there. So here's where we're at. We've got this all cut, and you can see where we've air arced all these welds off of here all the way around, and the plug welds going across the center of that. Now what I've got to do is I've got to finish cutting the floor from the other side, from this point over to that point, and then I'll try to get this floor out of here and try to save all this and clean this up, because I want to reuse this support piece. But you see how that air arc takes the weld right out of there, and the more you use it, the better you get with it, and it sure makes it handy, especially if you got a crack in something, you got to re-weld it back. You can gouge all the way through it and start over. It's just really a handy tool to have. But all this flat stuff here where I got to match back up again, I like using the cutoff wheel. It doesn't take that long. It took 5 cutoff wheels to cut this whole floor out, so that's not too bad. But I went and air arced these plug welds out, so hopefully I can get these two pieces to separate, get the bottom out of it when I finish cutting it from the other side. We'll see what happens here. So once we flip the bucket over, you can see here where we're going to finish cutting this all the rest of the way across there. So here's a look at what we have right now. We can get all this ground down and cleaned up. The reason they have this plate dimpled in is so that between this and the bottom of the bucket there's an airspace in there, so it makes like a bridge. It makes it really strong. That's why you see these curled down in like this. Makes it really strong. Here's our new piece of AR400. That we're going to use. That'll be the new bottom. So we've ground everything all down, ready to put the new bottom in it. I was going to show you the magnetic lifter here. It's awful handy. you never want to get underneath of one of them, but I have a pair of these, and I'll tell you what, you talk about handy. You just take that lever right there. Once you flip that lever, it drops whatever you've got. But once you lock it down, just turn that handle. It sure works good for flat plate. It's the thicker the material, the better it is, but they really are handy when it comes to doing something like this. So I got a couple of old brass thread C-clamps, and I cut the tops out of them, and then you can weld them right to the whatever you're wanting to push and pull on. Works really good. Get this piece of metal pulled down here, get it tack it all the way around. We'll get some clamps across the back of it back here. We'll be ready to start welding. Well, there you have it. New AR400 bottom. 1/4 inch thick. That'll last a good long time. So here's a quick look at the inside of it. The outside edge. And then the back. Should last for a good long time. Hope you liked the video. Thanks for watching.